So I would like to call to order the Cumberland School Committee at 7:11 p.m. on Thursday, April 8th, 2021. In accordance with Governor McKee's Executive Order 21-30, dated March 31st, 2021, the Cumberland School Committee intends to conduct this meeting remotely. The public can participate in this meeting remotely, but not in person by calling 1-646-558-8656, webinar ID 980-9873-8090, or can join via Zoom by going to the Cumberland Schools website to the events calendar and clicking on the Zoom link. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To
the flag
of the United States of America,
America,
and to the
to
republic
the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and
and
justice
for
for
all.
all.
And my apologies for us starting the meeting a little late. Our previous meeting went a little long. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. In compliance with Governor's Executive Order 21-30, dated March 31st, 2021, discussion or vote on whether there is public access to the meeting through adequate alternative means. And Mr. Chandler, it looks like
Yes,
we
there
have.
is.
Okay, excellent. So I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. DeMonica, second by Mr. Fiorello. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So approval of minutes from the special meeting, March 23rd, 2021, the regular meeting, March 25th, 2021, the joint fiscal subcommittee, school committee budget meetings, March 30th, 2021, and April 1st, 2021. Approval of minutes from the executive session, March 23rd, 2021, executive session, March 25th, 2021, the enrollment report, April 1st, 2021, the school police report, March 1st, 2021, the school bus inspection reports, April 1st, 2021, the residency truancy report, April 1st, 2021, and personnel actions, of which there is one, just to acknowledge the retirement after 35 years of service effective 12/31/2021 of Rosemarie Taxera, the building secretary at BF Norton. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Smith, second.
Second with discussion.
Second by Mr. Fiorello with discussion.
I'm very surprised to hear that Rose Texera is retiring at the end of the calendar year. She has been a staple at BF Norton. She will be sorely missed. Everybody in the building loves her. They rely on her. She is the heart and soul of that school.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the report out of executive session meeting on April 8th, 2021. Report out of executive session votes, of which there were no votes. And so I need a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
Motion to seal.
Motion by Mr. DeMonica,
Second.
second by Ms. Smith and Mrs. Feather. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Over to you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of the school committee and everyone in attendance this evening. The first thing that I wanted to do was recognize Ashton School. I did let everyone know in my superintendent's communication a few weeks ago that Ashton School was nominated for the National Blue Ribbon School Award. And I think the thing that is most impressive about this nomination is that it comes from the Rhode Island Department of Ed. the Rhode Island Department of Ed nominates schools that they feel are deserving of this recognition, and that the recognition is based on data and student performance. So just by virtue of the fact that Ashton School has been identified by the Rhode Island Department of Ed and has been recommended for consideration as a National Blue Ribbon School, I just wanted to publicly recognize Mrs. Carbonic, the principal of that school, and everyone associated with Ashton School, all of the staff, both certified and non-certified, and all of the students in attendance at that school. Congratulations to all of you just for being nominated, because as we know, a community school was recognized as a Blue Ribbon School a few years ago, and it is I believe less than 1% of all of the schools in the country are recognized as Blue Ribbon schools. So I just wanted to acknowledge Mrs. Carbonic, who is present this evening, and recognize everyone associated with Ashton School for this, really impressive recognition. So congratulations to you, Mrs. Carbonic. And can you just, there is an extensive application process, time-consuming application process that takes place. And Mrs. Carbonic just submitted the paperwork to the National Blue Ribbon School Commission. It's in Washington, D.C. Nydia, first of all, congratulations. And second of all, can you just talk a little bit about the process that you and your staff has gone through to complete the application?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. It is an honor, and we're humbled by the recognition. So as Mr. Mitchell said, it is a credit to everyone in our school community, our teachers that are working very hard, our students for performing well, and obviously our families that are supporting us and are behind our students, making sure that they're learning and that they're, following through at home with, the expectations of learning. So the process is quite involved. It's an application that will require us to provide information about the demographics of the school, but also to speak about the support systems that are in place at Ashton School that helped us get to the point of closing student achievement. So our recognition is specifically for the amount of learning that took place from one year to the next. So we're looking at the 2018 school year and the 2019 school year RICAS data. And there was a considerable amount of growth between the subgroup populations at Ashton School. And so the state wanted to know in the application, what is it that Ashton School is doing to have students perform that well and to close that student achievement. And one of the things that we described and talked about was the support systems that we have in place at the school. So obviously the core is important. Teachers are working really hard in the classroom, delivering the core, making sure students are learning what they need to meet the expectations. But then when students shortfall from meeting the expectations, we have a very defined process for our students that is, it provides a great deal of support so that students don't fall behind. And when they do, we catch them early in the stages so that we can close those learning gaps. We use the multi-tier system of support, which is a problem-solving approach where educators come to the table. We invite families, the parents are involved, and we work on a plan, an educational plan for closing those achievement gaps. So we use data. It's very data-driven, and it's a very collaborative approach to figuring out what's going on with the student, whether it's academically or emotionally, socially, whatever it is that's getting in the way, figuring out what it is and finding a plan to support them. So the application just will ask a lot of questions about what it is that we're doing in the school that got us to those scores or to close the achievement gaps in a significant manner. And then from there, it takes about a year for the process to take place. So we send the application, it gets reviewed, we get feedback. And from there, they let us know any changes or any additional information that they may need or that they would like to see. And eventually we get notified. I guess it's a big celebration. Community schools going through it. I'm not very sure, what that's going to entail this year, seeing that we're in COVID mode and a lot of things can't happen the same way. Typically, a team from the school will get invited to go to Washington, D.C., and there's a big celebration there. But we haven't received information what that will look like this year due to the conditions that we're in. So that's kind of the process. It's lengthy. We won't know anything anytime soon, but we did submit the application that was due on April 9th.
Great.
Thank you, Nydia. And I want to state something that I think is critically important. I know the school committee knows this, and all of the members of our leadership team, and I believe that most staff, if not all staff, would agree with this. And that is, we are a data-driven district, and all of our decisions are data-driven. So all of the things that we request from the school committee in our budget is connected to improving the performance of students. And I think Ashton has done an exceptional job of improving student performance and closing the achievement gap. And as Nydia said, that is one of the big reasons why Ashton was nominated as a potential blue ribbon school. So congratulations, Nydia. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Good for you, Nydia.
Can I say something really quickly?
Of course.
Just so 2 of my children have gone to Ashton, and one of them still currently there, and we have been so thrilled with them, and just so thrilled with Principal Carbonic. So thank you for all the work that you and your teachers have done.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Keep up the good work, Nydia. Okay, so Mike, can you please pull up the spreadsheet, the COVID-19 spreadsheet, please? Thank you, Mike. Well, as you know, this is a spreadsheet that we like to share with you every time we meet. We've been doing this for several months now, and as you can see at the bottom of the spreadsheet, there is a running total of positive cases for students, positive cases for staff, the number of students and staff that have to be quarantined, and so on. The one thing that I wanted the school committee to know and the public to know is that this is updated weekly. So it gives us a sense of the current trends. As you know, one of the major concerns in the country right now is the growing number of positive cases that young people are experiencing. We actually had an EDOC meeting this afternoon. All of the administrators attend that meeting with other administrators from around the state. And one of the things that was discussed was, the rationale for why this might be happening. And I do recall 2 things specifically that came up in the conversation. One is there is concern about the variants that appears to be more contagious. So that was one of the things that was discussed. And the other was that more students, young people may be becoming infected because a third of the country's adults have been at least partially vaccinated. So those were the 2 things that came up. So I think this is important for us to pay attention to. The good news is that certainly there is an increase, especially with students. As you can see there are 12 more students this week than last, but not significantly so. So we will pay attention to this. Our administrative team does a great job of staying on top of this and communicating with the Department of Health. And if we see that the numbers are ticking up significantly, then we can act accordingly. But I think the news is still good, and the fact that we will have almost all of our staff with 2 vaccinations within the next week or so. So we're definitely trending in the right direction. Thank you, Mike. Mike, can you please bring up that the presentation on in-person learning so I can give everybody a quick update? Thank you. All right, so this is something that I like to do at each of our meetings. As you know, you're going to be very familiar with these slides. This first one gives you an indication of where we are with students attending in person. And as of Tuesday, all students in grades K through 12 are attending at least 4 days a week. And by all accounts, the principals are reporting that everyone, students and staff, are really happy to be back. Next slide, please, Mike. Okay, I just want to, keep this information on the front burner, and there's a reason for that, and I'll get into it a little bit more in a minute. As you can see, the number of in-person learning students in all of our elementary schools and the number of students that are still doing distance learning, they're a little more than a third of our students are still doing distance learning, and we have a significant number of students who have returned. Next slide, please, Mike. And as you can see, the numbers there at both McCourt and North Cumberland Middle School that are in-person learning, the total is 836, and the number of distance learning students is 266. And I just wanted to give you some sense of the total number of students, at least K to 5 that are in person, 2,200, and the number of distance learning students, grades K to K to 8, 767 students. And the reason that is particularly important is because we have a responsibility to do RICAS testing with all students in grades 3 through 8. Mike, can you go to the next slide, please? I actually had a phone call with the Department of Ed today. I spoke with the Deputy Commissioner of Education, Anna Riley, and about RICAS, because we know that there are not many. There are a few parents that have some concerns about RICAS testing and have requested that their children opt out. I just want to state publicly again that, and this was supported by my conversation today with the Deputy Commissioner, that all students in grades 3 through 8 need to be tested. There are no opt-outs, and believe it or not, this is not just a state requirement. This is not a Cumberland requirement. This is a Rhode Island Department of Education requirement, and it's actually a National Department of Education requirement. Every state is required to test at least 95% of their students. So that was reinforced today in my conversation, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that this is not a Cumberland decision. This is not a Superintendent Mitchell decision. This is a Rhode Island Department of Ed, in fact, a U.S. Department of Education requirement. Transportation issue. The good news is that we're very hopeful that ridership will increase to 75% of capacity. I may have mentioned this before, but the target for that ridership increase is the week after April vacation. So that is encouraging. And I think that there can be a maximum of 58 students riding the bus. So I think that will help some parents and hopefully will help reduce some of the traffic that we're seeing at our schools at the beginning and end of every day. We will continue to use the Education Operations Center to help us through this process. In fact, I talked to Laura Canavan, our EDOC point of contact, on just about a daily basis, and she has been extremely helpful to us, given her her expertise in working with a number of schools. We still have all safety precautions in place. Next slide, please, Mike. We discussed this at our last school committee meeting. This is the process that was approved by the reopening of school task force. Rather than 14 days of quarantining for out-of-state travel. And then we went from 14 days, which was the gold standard, to 10 days. And now we are allowing students to return, and staff to return on day 8 after proof of a negative test after 5 days of quarantining. So students and staff can return to school on day 8 with a proof of a negative test. Once again, if you have specific questions about your particular school, please reach out to your principals. They are incredibly knowledgeable. And I said this at the last meeting, and I will say it again. Because the guidelines are so strict around social distancing and visitors to our schools, families haven't really had a chance to see how much time and effort and organization and planning has gone into making schools safe. You would be impressed. And I have to commend all of the principals and all of the staff in each of their buildings for the great work that they've done to organize their facilities to keep everyone safe. And, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I probably have already said it this evening. We need to continue being conscientious about our mitigation strategies. We need to continue to wear masks. We need to continue to wash our hands. We will continue to disinfect all of the areas that students and staff come in contact with, and we will be diligent about that. So things are going well. The only additional thing that I wanted to add is this. Our goal is to get students back, all students back 5 days a week, not 4 days a week, and we do believe, and I've said this before, if we can get students back for 4 days a week, we can get students back for 5 days a week. The problem is that we need to use Mondays to provide RICAS testing for our distance learning students. Now, I can tell you that things are never as easy as they may seem on the surface, and decisions of this magnitude are not made unilaterally. This is not a decision that was made solely by the superintendent or the central office. All of the administrators in the district have collaborated extensively on what can be done to get students into school 5 days a week. And that is our goal. But we also have a responsibility to assess all students, including distance learners. Therein lies the problem. So in order for us to be able to successfully ensure that there is appropriate distance learning, that we have the space to accommodate all of the distance learners, it makes bringing everybody in a challenge. That's why we need Mondays to assess our students. That being said, we've already started assessing some students this week. And as soon as the testing is over, we're going to get everybody back in for 5 days a week. So, you know, I know that there are some folks that are disappointed that we don't have them in for 5 days a week. We're disappointed too. It would be easier for us to get everybody in for 5 days a week, but I just need everyone to know that there are challenges to doing that. So it's going to happen. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Thank you, Mike. I think we're good.
So I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Of course.
Thank you. So thank you very much again for all the work you guys are doing. And I know it's a huge amount of work and to keep everyone safe. So thank you. I just get confused when I see the numbers trending upward and then hear that we're going in the right direction. And I'm wondering if you could explain that a little bit more, because I look at Rhode Island's numbers and I see Rhode Island's numbers trending up. I listen to the CDC director and hear the CDC director talk about impending doom if we open up things too quickly. And then I see our numbers going up and just a steady trickle up. So I just have some concerns and just want to make sure that, you know, we're not moving too fast.
Well, I don't think you're alone, Mrs. Feather, in your concern. One of the reasons why we are collecting data on a regular basis is to put us in a position to make the right decision if need be. If we see that, you know, things are trending up significantly, we can respond accordingly. As you know, because we are able to group kids in pods, K-8, we're able to respond quickly to that. And if we need to quarantine a pod of students, then we can do that. It's a little more difficult in the high school. But one of the other things that has happened that I think is important for the school committee and members of the community to know, and we actually had a training this week. A number of staff have been trained on Binax testing. And what that means is we have staff members that are going to be able to test students and staff that will allow us to, the goal of Binax testing and testing more students and staff is that we would be able to identify asymptomatic students and staff. So, you know, those individuals who may actually be positive, but because they are asymptomatic, they are unknowingly spreading the virus. So the next step for us is going to be, we have people trained. The next step for us is going to be to determine who is going to be, what groups of students and or adults are going to be tested first. So in fact, that was one of the recommendations made by EDOC that will help us to get a handle on the increasing numbers of individuals that are testing positive. So that was a strategy that was recommended by the Department of Health and EDOC, and that's why we took advantage of that training. In fact, it happened on Monday. So I think that will help us. But your concerns are well taken, and we'll watch the data very closely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think on the flip side of that, the governor's office made a number of announcements today and predictions around school events, graduations, proms, number of people in events, indoors, outdoors, looking at the older kids and the percentage being vaccinated and all that. And I wonder, Mr. Mitchell, if at a future meeting, you may give an update on where we stand with in regards to graduations and proms and, you know, kind of at all levels. I know some of that is being planned. I'm not certain if everyone knows what the plans are for those kinds of events.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad you mentioned that. We had a we have a bi-weekly meeting, EDOC meeting with the Education Operations Center, and a number of districts attend those meetings. And coincidentally, I think while there was the press conference, that was during the time that we were in our meeting. And we were told in the meeting that we would be getting information on end of year events tomorrow. So we're supposed to be getting some information tomorrow on those kinds of things, proms, graduation, and all the end of year activities that we have been able to participate in over the years. So we're going to get that tomorrow. And that was a long-winded response to your question. We can definitely provide some guidance at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And we can use it to, make some decisions about what we're going to do moving forward. Okay, so are there any other questions related to the to in-person learning? If not, I can go on to the next item, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. As you know, we like to give you an update, a regular update on the school buildings renovation projects. And we have our point of contact with Colliers, our owner's project management firm. Holly Demers is highly experienced and really, really good, and really, I think, has the district's best interests as we work through this process. So Holly is here, and she's just going to give you a brief update as to where we are in this process. And just to let you all know, we meet every Thursday. So the architect, the owner's project manager, and members of the central office leadership team, and we actually have Mr. Costa, because of the work that's being done in the high school, and Mrs. Malcolm, the principal of Cumberland Hill Elementary School. Don't forget, that's school number 1. They're going to be moving from Cumberland Hill to the trans building for the swing space while the work is being done there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Demers.
Thank you. Thank you all for inviting me here tonight. We have a quick update. The design documents for both Cumberland Hill and the swing space, as well as some work at the high school, has been at the school building authority for about a month. So we're anticipating having that review over the next 2 weeks. I'm in constant contact with RIDE to try to get on their agenda. So that's going as planned. And while that's happening, Torado Architects is continuing to work on the construction documents. So once we have the review meeting, any changes or suggestions that they made would be considered by the district and then incorporated. And then after that point would be the construction documents at 60% would be submitted to RIDE for that final approval. Once that approval comes in, then we're able to go out for bids with the RFPs. So, and the other thing that's happened recently is the Univent projects, which has an incredibly long lead time. We were able, the building committee approved the ENS's systems proposals for both the transitional building as well as the high school this past Monday evening. I believe it's on your agenda tonight for final approval. And that will allow the Univent project to be, the Univents to be ordered to have them in time for the summer work. So that was really great, because there was a time issue there that we really were concerned about. So fortunately, thank you for working with us on that. That was really important. And what we've done recently is we're coordinating the move management with the Cumberland Hills School. That can be a bit complicated, understanding what they want to move to the swing space, what will we replace at the back end with new furniture. And so we're going to start that coordination, and I'll work with the staff at the school and meet with whomever teachers they'd like. And so we can have a really defined plan. And then we will go out depending on what they need, whether it's professional movers and containers for storage or whatever. So that will start next week, and we'll we'll be able to get a handle on that. And that's pretty much where we are. Everything is moving according to plan. The numbers have come in with the estimates, a month or so ago where we had hoped. So that was great news. And that's where we are. So every week we're getting closer to kickoff. So it's all very exciting. So thank you. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Well, I do want to say congratulations, Holly. I heard you weren't able to attend our last meeting because you were celebrating your wedding and your honeymoon. So
Yes,
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks. With COVID, it was planned 3 times, so we finally got it done.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, excellent. And congratulations, of course, again to Nydia and the whole Ashton School staff. Huge achievement to be nominated, and we look forward to seeing what happens next. The next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees. The Fiscal Management Subcommittee update, Mr. DeMonica.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. The fiscal subcommittee did meet tonight. We approved our payment of bills tonight, which will be coming later. Mr. Prignano gave us a report for the business office. We're still trending about $330,000 to the positive, but there are some encumbrances on that money as well, since the administrators didn't take their pay raise last year. They put it off a year, so more than likely we will be paying that money out so that we're not carrying it forward next year. There's a couple of resolutions on the agenda tonight. One is some food service equipment at the high school, and the payment of that comes out of the cafeteria food service fund that we have. And as Mrs. Demers had stated, we have the Univent system at the high school and the trans building that was approved by the building committee. Previously, we did approve one of the systems with E&E, so that will be withdrawn, so that we'll have one purchase order for the entire project. Mr. Prignano did review the town audit that was done ending June 30th, 2020, and that is in your drives to look at. And that was basically it for fiscal subcommittee meeting tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeMonica. Next is the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee update, Mr. Fiorella. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, again, my space bar fails me. Unfortunately, we were not able to meet on Tuesday. We weren't sure if we were going to need another night for, I forget what we were thinking at the time.
Budget.
So, but budget, yes. But thank you.
The
We
next
should
item.
meet in 2 weeks, though.
The next item is Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update, which also didn't meet with all of the work going on around the budget and Mr. Devana's office being involved in that. And then the next item is the District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update. Mrs. Rogalski.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Yes, we had our first meeting last week. We talked about a few different things. One of the main things that we did is, as a committee, we approved changes that had been made to the policy pre-COVID. So those will move on to Mr. Fiorillo's committee for discussion and possible vote at their next meeting or the meeting after. We had a really good discussion about the different social emotional needs that we are seeing in the schools right now, not only facing our students, but also facing our staff and our administrators. I think we get very caught up in, and we were agreeing, you get very caught up in what's going on with the students, but we also need to realize that the staff is being very much affected, and a lot of them are approaching different stages of burnout and exhaustion with everything that has been going on. We started to discuss different efforts that we can do to support the staff and teachers in the district administration. We have a Google Doc that we're going to be starting with different resources that we can hopefully put out to different employees in the district for resources that they can use. Besides that, we are also going to be reviewing our report card that we have, which is an informal report card that we have that rates how we are doing as a district on different areas of health and wellness. And we're going to be reviewing some of the scores that we got there. It's a program that people can ask me about at another time, but it's just a nice kind of feedback and see what we're doing and how we're doing. We have our next meeting scheduled May 6th, and that is it for now.
Great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business. And the first item under new business, I would just like to introduce this first item. You know, as most everyone knows, Superintendent Mitchell is retiring at the end of this school year. And we put together a search committee comprised of various stakeholders, parents, teachers, administrators, myself, Mr. Fiorello, a town council member, members of the union, and that search committee vetted several potential superintendent candidates, and they've provided the committee with an analysis of these candidates that they interviewed. And so the school committee has considered the search committee's analysis, and we have the opportunity tonight to decide how we want to proceed with the candidates for superintendent. So, you know, as an example, we can vote to interview one or more candidates, and then we can direct Mrs. Duncanson to set up any interviews for an executive session in the near future. Because we're dealing with highly sensitive personnel information, our legal counsel has advised that if we want to interview particular candidates, and as we talk about this tonight, that we refer to them as candidate A, candidate B, candidate C, candidate D, to protect the confidentiality at this moment in the process. So, you know, with that, if school committee members would like to discuss the topic, or if anyone would like to make a motion to get started, we can go ahead. Mr. DeMonica.
Madam Chair, looking at the notes that was sent to us from the search committee, 17 people recommended candidate number one. 2 people recommended candidate number one as second. In reading the notes from that group of people that we've asked to do the search and the interviews, I'm going to make a motion that we, as a school committee, interview candidate number one and go from there. So my motion is to interview candidate number A that was recommended to us by the search committee.
Okay, so we have a motion to interview candidate A. Do we have a second for discussion? Mr. Collins.
I'll second for discussion. My concern with this is they ranked A, B, C, and D in order, and I agree with Mr. DeMonica that candidate A overwhelmingly had the support of the majority of the search committee. But you know, I would prefer to interview at least 2 candidates, simply because I would like, you know, if we're going to bring forth one candidate that everybody agrees upon, I want to see at least a second one so I can contrast the differences. I don't think there's any danger in interviewing. I don't think there's any negatives to interviewing 2 candidates. And I think the more transparent we are in the process, the better off we'll be. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody on the search committees. I'm getting an argument. I'm getting a synopsis from other people. I like to see for myself, and it's a pretty good chance I'll agree with the search committee. But if ultimately I have to, and all of us have to cast a vote for such an important position, I would like to see at least 2 candidates, more preferably. But so I'll second the motion for discussion, but that's where I stand.
Okay, Mr. Adams. So, Ms. Smith, Mr. Adams, just keep me on track here in terms of the order. Ms. Smith, we have a motion and a second for discussion.
Yes, and I'd like to concur with Mr. Collins. I think that the search committee did an outstanding job. They took all the candidates, they reviewed a lot of information. They then went and interviewed candidates and then gave us who they would recommend. And I think that they've done an outstanding job there. For comparison purposes and to ensure that we do have everything tight and you know, I'm doing my role as a school committee member. I would support Mr. Collins' suggestion of having 2 candidates interviewed. So at this time, Mr. Adams, I do not know if we have to close the discussion or if we can do a second with an amendment.
Or can I just add something to the discussion?
Yep.
I just want to add, you know, if we go through with one candidate, assuming it's candidate A, and something goes wrong, you know what I mean? What happens if they back out the 11th hour, they can't come to a contract agreement, or it just doesn't work out? We can go back to the search and go, you know what I mean? What happens when you only have one candidate. That just hinders the process. So I just, again, I want to add that I don't think there's any drawback to interviewing at least 2 candidates, and even if we arrive at the same conclusion.
Okay, so we have a motion to interview candidate A and a second for discussion. Is there any other discussion? Mrs. Feather.
Thanks. Given that we were able to review the data along the way and to have conversations with the head of the search committee or the subcommittee, I would be comfortable with the motion on the table. Having you know, made many hiring decisions as well in the past, I understand wanting to have more candidates, and you know, that's something that I, you know, also feel strongly about. However, I don't also think that we can make candidates appear. And if the strong recommendation was for one candidate, then I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, so Mrs. Rogalski for discussion.
Yes, for discussion. Yeah, just to echo what Mrs. Feather just said as well. In an ideal world, we would have had even more candidates and who knows how many suggestions put forward. But we went through this process. We've been involved from the beginning. We have made the process known from the beginning. We trusted the subcommittee to do the work. They did the work we requested of them. I've spoken with one member personally. I have heard from another member of the search committee, and both of those people overwhelmingly fully supported candidate A. And that to me says something in the fact that 17 out of 19 overwhelmingly supported him, and the other 2 put them as their second choice. Sorry. That really speaks volumes to me. We are in a tricky situation right now with COVID, with the bond, with the pandemic, with everything. And I think that the committee has done the job, and I feel comfortable at this point with one recommendation and interviewing one candidate personally.
Okay, so we have a motion to interview candidate A, a second for discussion, more discussion, Mr. Fiorillo.
I just want to be clear on the motion. We are, the motion on the table is to interview only candidate A, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mr. Collins.
I just want to just stay again. I mean, if 17 out of 19, it's a very high percentage, but I want to have a better understanding why those two members of the search committee were not in support of candidate A. If you're going to buy a house or whatever, something important, obviously house is probably is very important, but if somebody tells you there's there's 19 things in the house and 17 out of 19 of them are great, I want to hear what the two things that are wrong with it are, or why you chose one house or I just think I want to be as thorough as possible, and I have reservations about going with one candidate, and I think I've said that 3 times now, so I'm done.
Okay. So we have a motion to only interview candidate A, and that is seconded. So now we will take a vote on that. And Mr. Adams, should I do a roll call or should I just go?
I think that would be fine. I think that would be fine to do a roll call vote. It's up to you.
Okay. Just because it's easier for me to hear everybody individually. So I'll do a roll call. If you vote yay, then you are voting to only interview candidate A. If you vote nay, you're not agreeing with the motion. Okay. Mr. DeMonica.
Yes.
I'm just going in order on my screen. Sorry. Mrs. Feather.
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello.
Yes.
Mrs. Rogalski.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
No.
Mr. Collins.
No.
The chair votes yes. The motion passes 5-2. Thank you. So Mrs. Duncanson, you can go ahead and work with us on schedule for the next step. All right. Thank you. And thank you again to the search subcommittee for all the work put in to get us this far. The next item on the agenda, I think, Mr. Adams, you're going to take this one.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is unique and pleasing to me because usually when I speak at a meeting, it is not about something that is helpful or positive. It is usually me saying, no, don't do that or whatever. So this is a discussion and or vote to join a national litigation against vaping manufacturers. A few weeks ago, my firm, I received a reach out from a lawyer in California named William Scheinoff, who works for a law firm called the Franz Law Firm. They are what we call in my business a mass torts plaintiffs firm of public schools all over the country, the vaping manufacturer Juul, for the costs, both soft in connection with combating vaping among the student population in their various schools. So the Franz Law Group is the law firm that is prosecuting this case or these cases in settlements of all of these cases against Juul for many, many, many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. That is, of course, the hope of the plaintiff, but there's no guarantee in litigation. The Franz Law Group handles these cases on a contingency fee. In other words, they don't charge anything to the clients that they represent. In this case, the Cumberland School Committee would be the client, unless they recover. And if they do recover money on behalf of the Cumberland School Committee, they will charge a contingency fee. In this case, a reduced fee of about 25%, not about 25%. So for every $100 in either a settlement or a judgment or whatever way money could be paid from Juul to Cumberland, Franz would take $25 and the Cumberland School Committee would take $75 if successful. On the flip side, if they are not successful in the case, which does happen, no dollars at stake, there is nothing to be paid. I am advised that that probably something on the order of about 10 to 15 hours of administrative time by your administrative team to answer some relatively straightforward questions so that they can do the work that they need to do to get their experts information. And a little bit of word about why this is being done. The vaping folks essentially market to young people. And I think everybody on this Zoom and probably knows kids who have vaped, even if it's not their own. And it has become a major problem, both in that age group of young teens, tweens, and then into high school and college. And it is a problem with schools having to combat it, with administrative time being devoted to anti-vaping, with a lot of work being devoted to stopping vaping in the schools. There are even some states that have state laws requiring vape detection software in bathrooms in various places. Rhode Island does not have that requirement, but that is a cost, for example, that schools have to undertake in some places. And that could be a cost that could be defrayed completely in Cumberland if successful in the litigation. So I can't tell you exactly whether this would be successful. And if it is successful, whether it's $5, $500, $500,000, $5 million, I have no idea. But the hope is that if it's successful, there will be a check that you didn't expect was coming your way. And if it's unsuccessful, there will be no downside. Full disclosure, as local counsel of, in this case, Franz is using us in Rhode Island and some of the other states in which we do business, and they are paying, they would pay us out of their contingency. It doesn't cost you any more for me to be involved. It's the same deal. And I will note that the 25% contingency fee is low. For the most part, you may find it offensive, but plaintiffs' lawyers often are up around 40% now. So for every $100 that is achieved in settlement or verdict, a lawsuit that is holding companies to account, that are, a lawsuit would be filed on behalf of the Cumberland School Committee. And then to the extent there are any further actions or interactions that need to happen, it would be probably me working with Mr. Mitchell or his team to, take care of the relatively small number of things that may need to be taken care of. So that.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just want to point out, and I'm not sure when this happened. It may have been 2 years. We spent a tremendous amount of time discussing about the vaping problems in our schools, on the school buses, especially bus stops, everything. We did look into the special smoke detecting systems for the bathrooms. It's one of the reasons we have cameras on the rewrites on policy around vaping. So the school department has already.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second for discussion, or a second, Mrs. Feather?
I completely agree, and I would second it, the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion and a vote to approve homeschool instruction request for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve. Second by Mrs. Rogalski. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, 7-0. The next two items on the agenda, Mr. DeMonica, I will hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. Oops, let me make sure I'm on. So we have SCPR 04-2021-08. It's a resolution authorizing and empowering the Cumberland School Committee to execute a contract with Kitteridge of Agawam, Mass. For a kettle and steamer for the Cumberland High School kitchen in an amount not to exceed $6,001.88. This was heard during the fiscal subcommittee meeting. Mr. Prignano, the business manager, told us there were 6 bidders that had bid this item, and the payment from this comes out of a fund that we have for food services so that profits we make go into that fund to pay for these things in the school kitchens. So it's was approved by the fiscal.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0.
I just want to point out for our new members that we have a separate account, and that's what buys all the equipment and replacements for every one of our elementary schools. And that's where this money comes from. It's segregated. We can't spend it for anything else other than for food services. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So next is SCPR 04-2021-09. A resolution empowering for the removal and installation of new univents and energy management systems at Cumberland High School in an amount not to exceed $649,158 at the main building and $638,918 at the transitional building with an allowance of $59,000. This was brought up to the building committee Monday night. They approved it to send to us. And the money to pay for this is coming out of the total amount, by the way, is $1,347,076. The payment is coming out of the $79 million bond. It was approved on a 3-0 vote. And I just want to make a note because Mrs. Smith had brought this up as well. Back in February, we voted to award a contract to E&E not to exceed $700,000. And that project, I should say that resolution will have to get canceled out because this one will replace that resolution because it's now building with the also $59,000 allowances. So it passed through.
Okay, Mr. DeMonica makes a motion to approve. We have
I'll
a second. Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? So motion to approve SCPR 04-2021-09, removal / installation of new univents and energy management systems at CHS, to 0.
Next, Madam Chair, is the payment of bills. The check register was put into the folder. On a 3-0 vote, we approved the payment of bills in the amount of $1,722,452.01. And I would move passage.
Mr. DeMonica makes a motion to approve payment of bills. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0. Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. The next item on the agenda is comments from the public. So if you are in the audience, you can raise your virtual hand. Mr. Chandler can make you available. Or if you are on the phone, *6 to unmute.
Perfect. I do not see anybody yet with their hand up, but we'll give them a second.
Okay.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Mr. DeMonica.
Madam Chair, I just would like to point out for the school committee members and the public that the Town Council Fiscal Finance Subcommittee is meeting Monday to talk about the levy that was presented to them last night with the mayor. And as we've had these discussions before, we really need the levy to be set at 4% and not what the recommendation from the mayor was at this time. And I urge the public and the school committee members to attend the meeting on Monday. The link will be on the Secretary of State's website to get to the Zoom meeting, to make it known that you really wish they would increase that levy, and so that there's money for the schools. We have a tough year coming up with all these children that have been home for well over a year. And they're gonna need help. They're gonna need mental health help, They're gonna need help in the classroom, pullouts, and so forth. And we really need to get the council to, listen to us and make changes to the recommendation that's out there, because if they vote for the recommendation by the mayor and they approve it, there'll be another meeting on Wednesday of next week to approve it. Then there isn't a whole lot for the council, for the town to give to the school department. I know the mayor is reaching out to the superintendent and the business manager. They're gonna have a meeting on Tuesday, probably to discuss the budget going forward, but we really need to make this work, because we laid off 65 non-tenured teachers. And the ESSA2 money that we're getting can't be used to supplant those people that were laid off. And, we can't lose these teachers, and the students need the work. Everyone in the country realizes it. So for the parents and the PTOs out there, please come to the meeting on Monday, go to the Secretary of State's website and get the link for Zoom, and ask the council to really amend that come next Wednesday, because we need the money. There's no way about it. We need the money, and please come out to the meeting. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. Other comments? Mr. Collins?
I just want to give a recognition to a senior at Cumberland High School by the name of Sarah LeDuc. I don't know if she sent it could have been blind carbon copied, but she sent a GoFundMe. She set up a GoFundMe, and all proceeds are going. She created the GoFundMe because this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the GoFundMe, all proceeds go to Day One, a Rhode Island Rape Crisis Center, and she's asking for donations. And I looked just now, she's already raised over $2,000 off of 54 donors. So you can go to GoFundMe and support survivors of sexual assault, Day One. It's a noble cause. I donated, and I actually just looked. Mark's name's right below me, and he donated more money than me, which I don't like. I may have to go make another donation. So now look like a cheapskate, but I'm sure every dollar helps. I emailed her this afternoon saying I'll mention you, and if she wants, I'd like to get her on the agenda next week to plug this. I think it's an excellent cause, and I just, at the end of the day, I mean, an 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid taking on something like this for something so important, I think the future may be in good hands. We'll see. But that's it. So thank you.
Any other comments? Ms. Smith?
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate Mrs. Carbonic and her team, and wishing them luck in continuation and hopefully receiving that blue ribbon. And I also wanted to thank the search committee for all of the work and time put in. It is valuable. We very much appreciate everything that's been given to us. And, we can see just how much time and effort was put in to your recommendation. So just want to say thank you. I mean, we really do value what you have done for us.
Thank you. Any other school committee comments? Okay, next item on the agenda is vote to go into executive session. Mr. Mitchell, do we have exec today?
No, we do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then the last item on the agenda is adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Fiorella,
Second.
second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 7-0. Meeting's adjourned at 8:24 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Good,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.